trust your gut. The moment I knew I had to leave. Now, when I say trust your gut, I'm talking about hearing the word of God, hearing the Holy Spirit, all those things. That's what I'm talking about when I say trust your gut. People might say, oh, it's intuition. I'm a spiritual person. I feel like it's
Mhm.
God talking to me, right? So what I'm saying is when you feel in your gut like something is not right, please pay attention to that, because when we stay longer in environments, particularly toxic job environments, that it's longer, like we heard the voice and we're like, I'm gonna stay longer because of this. I'm gonna stay longer because they're not gonna run me out of here. We are really harmed the longer that we stay. And let me just tell you, before I have my guest introduce herself, I ignored so many times of God whispering to me at that toxic job because I was in fight mode. I was like, they're not gonna run me out of here. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do all these other things. But I'm telling you, when I heard the voice of God say to me when I was in the shower, if you go back to that job, to death sentence, that was it for me. I couldn't ignore the whispers. I couldn't ignore any of that. I literally heard like God was screaming in my ear. Okay. And that's when I resigned immediately. Okay. So I'm excited to have Dr. Orletta here with us today. Dr. Orletta has been here before,
Mhm.
so I'm happy to have her back again. So Dr. Orletta, can you please introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hi. Yeah, people call me Dr. O. I'm Dr. Orletta Caldwell. I am a nonprofit consultant. I've been in nonprofit work for 35 years, PhD in it, blah, blah, blah. Right now, I'm focusing on my consulting firm, and then I have an online platform for African American nonprofits. So obviously, I just left a full-time job, but
Yes. And let me tell you, Dr. Orletta or Dr. O has told me so much about the nonprofit world.
yeah.
I had no idea. I had no idea. And even to say that me being on YouTube, I've learned so much just in general
Mhm.
about toxic workplaces. Just, it doesn't matter what the profession is, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. There's so many different parallels. So,
Yeah.
Dr. O, I remember you were commenting on Stephanie Perry's
Mhm.
videos and you were making reference to things that you were going through. And I was like, oh, she must be going through something serious,
Yeah.
right? And then I got an email from you and you were like, I am ready to talk. I was like, girl, come on, come on. I want to hear what happened because you resigned. So I remember you before talking about being in a toxic job, right?
Mhm.
So today we're going to focus more on trusting that gut, right? So
Right.
can you share with the audience what were the things that were happening that like intuition, the Holy Spirit was saying to you, there is something not right here. There's something not right at this job.
Well, I had been on the job almost 2 years, and we were finally making progress. And I can say I went through all the, when you looked on LinkedIn and everything about Black women in toxic jobs, um, I was going through everything that was stereotypical. I could have had a checklist. I've been through it all. And, but what culminated was, I didn't tell this part that Monday I went to the office and I have a mixed race staff. And I remember at the staff meeting, and I said, I don't feel like being a cursory tale of a Black woman allowing these white women to kill me. And I looked because I
Wow.
couldn't, it just flew out my mouth.
Wow.
And I said, oh my God, I'm sorry, white people, excuse me. But that's how, this voice, was working with me. I woke up that morning because I can say I used to avoid your show because it was too much of a reality check of what was really going on in my life.
Wow.
So I was laughing with you before the show. I'm a type A, typical Black hard worker. I did have a plan to leave because I knew it was getting untenable, but I had a plan to leave to the point where I had a time clock on my phone that tells me you have this many days to resignation because it was on my
What?
phone.
You had like a countdown.
I was on a countdown. I had a plan. And so it wasn't like I wasn't planning to leave, but it was that other thing we do, particularly as Black women. I'm going to get this place straightened out first. I'm going to make sure my team is cool. Make sure the mission is strong. We were starting to get the state to look at us, and I was getting, putting all these things together. So by this time, I figured I put my resignation in, and then I had a plan where I would work it out to the end of the year, and then I'll be out by 2025. That was the plan. What happened in reality was it got to be so untenable. I actually got tone checked in 2025. No, this is March. This is January. And I was told my tone because I told them I wasn't going to allow y'all to retrench using my black face.
Ooh.
And I'm blunt. And so all of a sudden I was being tone checked. And I said, well, I am professional. I've always been professional. And the way you guys treat me, I'm surprised I'm as professional as I am. So that Monday I had said about being killed, and I'm sitting at it was some kind of networking thing, and I'm sitting there looking around. And I got home, and I just remember this voice said, I was sitting on the couch, and I got up, and I heard this voice, because I know people say they don't hear the voice of God. He speaks to me. And it was clear as day. It said, what are you doing? And I looked, and
What's happening? Yes.
So I sat down and wrote a letter asking for a mutual separation, because I said, well, it's obvious you do not want my leadership. And that was my whole attitude. It wasn't, I hate you guys, I want out, you're making me sick. It was, you don't want my leadership. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying something's wrong with my leadership. Mm-hmm. I was just saying, you don't want it.
Yeah.
And then there was other things. You hired me, you told me you're financially solvent, you weren't. Ooh. You told me you were structurally sound. You weren't. Your operations was ridiculous. They didn't want to do diversification in their fundraising. They barely had grants. They didn't want to individually donate. They were living off the corporations, even though we know corporations are shifting. Mm-hmm. And I told them a year ago, hey, I got research, 50 years of research. This is what we need to do. So it was just, and then I had gotten the feeling that they were going to try, because I was executive director, they were going to try to take the bank accounts away from me. Oh. Have the board decide. And I told them about a year ago, I told this particular woman, I said, look, I didn't get a PhD to say, Mother, may I? And so. I know.
Whoa, okay. People know me. Okay, you're talking about take your power back. Okay, yes.
Well, they caught me. I'm in my 50s. They really kind of caught me when it's like, I have a full sense of myself. Because one of the things that was key to me, and even being part of Exodus Summit, the best thing I did was I never allowed that job to be my identity. It was not who I am.
Perfect.
It was my job.
Yes.
And that saved me.
Yes.
And if I had talked to you, I noticed that I didn't notice. I was at another, I think it's called Sister Summit. It's for Black women and nonprofits. And I noticed that when I introduced myself, I always said that I ran a statewide organization. And I never mentioned the name of the mission. And I didn't know I was doing that. But that was part of that, not making it my identity. So I totally didn't go crazy. But that was just my thing. Because I didn't take that job to build my legacy. I had a legacy. I walked in the door. I was just trying to do a mission and ride out so I can retire. I noticed, oh shoot, I can get Social Security in a couple of years. I need to, and I want to pay off some debt so I can, immigrate. I even told them.
So you can say deuces to US.
Yeah, that's the plan. And so it really wasn't part of that. But when you're nonprofit, for me personally, I'm into the mission. If we're not doing the mission, what are we doing? And so that was my attitude. It wasn't to make a name. It wasn't to make anybody look bad. It was just to push the mission. And it was a pretty easy mission to push. So I didn't come in there expecting grind and hard work. It was like, it was helping girls and women in technology. I mean, who's going to fight that?
Yeah. Can I say something, Dr. O? Because you're touching upon something that I'm noticing more and more. And actually, when I was watching a video that Stephanie Perry did on her Stephanie Perry media channel, talking about, and I couldn't figure it out. I was like, what's going on with us as Black women? Like, we get these degrees and the credentials, and we're highly qualified, and we go to these workplaces, and we show up, we show out. And then we recognize, wait a minute, they may be treating me in a certain way that's not supportive, or they're undermining me, or they're micromanaging me, or they throw me under the bus. Like, we see it. Like, we see the writing on the wall. We see it. And many of us, myself included, and I think for you too,
Got it.
we say, I'm committed to the mission, or I'm going to stay for a certain period of time and then I'm out. Right. And it's like on a certain level, yeah, the job that may not define us, but I think on level it does. Because then we start thinking like, well, I need to stay to meet certain goals, or I need to
Mhm.
stay to support my team. I'm like, whoa, like what is that about? Like, why is it that for us as Black women, we feel like that sense of responsibility for these organizations, for teams, like all these, it's not even our own business,
I
right?
know.
Why do we do that?
I think we're nurturers of the world. I think it's
Uh,
ingrained in our DNA. And it's that what I have that fight against is I don't want us to lose the greatness that we are, because part of that is nurturing, but I
true.
don't feel like dying for it either. So
That
I
part.
go back and forth because I'm serious. I don't feel
Yeah.
like dying. I got
Yes.
to do. I
Yes.
feel vivacious. And for me, I know for this mission, a lot of they weren't thinking of people of color. Hell, they weren't even thinking about poor whites.
Mm.
It was just a certain group they cared about,
Mhm.
and I just felt like, and I knew I can document that the moves I was making was helping women
Mhm.
change their lives if they
Yeah.
keep this career.
Yeah.
And them me just keep talking about, we could change lives. You change women's lives. I'm like, and you're like, these chicks don't care about this.
They don't care, right?
They
And so
don't.
I think like because we are nurturers generally, right? We're nurturers, we're committed to it, we believe in community,
Mhm.
all these things. And so we go all in. But I think the problem is, and what you identified, I know we were laughing and smiling about it, but it's for real, real.
Oh yeah.
Like these situations can really take us out. Like the stress can really take us out. And I think for Black women, we need to be more serious about it. And I think that you sharing your story, me sharing my story
Mhm.
about, yeah, we were in these situations, but we had to leave because
Oh
it
yeah.
wasn't worth it. It wasn't our mental, physical, it wasn't even worth it anymore, right? So the part about what I think, and it's a little different question I want to ask too.
Mhm.
Why do you think for some of us as Black women, you and I, right, we're like, I'm out, right? I'm out, right? There's a lot of Black women, though, who, again, see the writing on the wall. They see that they're being harmed. They see all these things, but they will say something like, I'm going to make these people respect me.
Mhm.
I deserve the right to be here. I am the authentic leader here, and I need to stay here for my team. That, right? That part. Or, I'm going to make them feel uncomfortable by seeing me, like all of that
All
stuff.
that crazy stuff. And you
What?
have that. I
What?
think I think we're the outliers because we have community.
Oh,
I really do. I think because Exodus Summit, I don't think I would have made that decision. Like the one reason I got on Exodus Summit and thanked them because there were two things that would have happened. I either would have, because I was starting to get those headaches in my
oh,
eyes. Yeah.
oh.
That's why I was saying I don't feel like being a cursory tale because I was starting to get headaches again.
Uh,
And so there was two things that would have happened. I would have pretty much been sick on the job, and then they would have said, she's sick all the time and got rid of me
oh,
because I couldn't hold up on it.
yeah,
Or I would have quit and been broke. And because of Exodus Summit and Anne Marie, the anti-HR lady, and that whole community, Exodus Summit community, I realized y'all got to pay me some cash because
yeah. And there's another way, right? I
there's
think,
another way, and there's
yes,
options, and it does
yes,
me. And I don't know how revolutionary. I hear it a lot now, maybe because I'm in that circle, but that rest, that's revolutionary.
it is. It
Yes,
is.
5-6 years ago to say, you can have a life of ease and you're not
Right,
always going to struggle and you're not
right,
always fighting. Because I don't feel like fighting all the time.
right.
Yeah.
I'm not fighting to do my job.
I was thinking about this week and I kept thinking, I didn't even know you people. There was not one person in that environment that I knew before I took the job. Why are you fighting me? I don't know you.
Right. And I don't even own this. This is a job.
I just did a job. I came in, you said you need somebody to do this. And I said, sure, I can do it. And that's all I did.
Right.
So I don't feel like fighting all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that seeing so many Black women now on YouTube, like Stephanie Perry, and I love her quote when she says, I don't dream of labor. You know what I mean? Like, I dream of ease. I don't dream of labor. Can you tell people who don't know about Exodus Summit, what is Exodus Summit?
Well, for me, Stephanie Perry and Rashida Dowles I caught them during the pandemic, and I caught them because I want to leave the country. And it's not because I'm marching out of the country. I've been wanting to leave for, I've always wanted to be an expat. So that's how I hooked up to them. But as I listened to Stephanie, she is vicarious too. She does her thing. She was talking about ease. And that's what I was like. And she's like, Black women are allowed to work hard. I think the first revolutionary thing she said is, this is for Black women.
That part.
Because, they unapologetically and says you can't come. It's for Black women. So Black women can have a safe place. And then she says these small things. And then Rashida, the thing that was revolutionary for her, when I can't think of that doctor who committed suicide on her
Dr. Antoinette Bonnie Kindia Bailey.
Right. Mm-hmm. And when Rashida was talking about that once, and it stuck with me because I was on this job when that happened. And she said something about you Black women take these jobs and you forget why you take them. Because my goal was to pay off credit cards so I can retire. But then, like you said, we get wrapped up in, we got to do the mission and my team. And I looked around like, well, yeah, I said I was going to do credit cards. What does credit cards have to do with this mission? And me fighting, because I was fighting all the time. And it wasn't until I left that I knew how bad it was. That's why when you first asked me, I said, no, I got to decompress. Because it took me 2 weeks later to say, that was hell.
It was hell, right? You're in constant attack mode, right? And we have to think about, for Black women, the role of that chronic stress. Like, now we're seeing all this information now talking about, for Black women, we're dying at earlier ages and we're developing all these things. And I'm like, oh my God, we need to pause and pay attention to that. And I think the other thing too is, with Rashida and Stephanie and the Exodus Summit and everybody, I'll put information about the Exodus Summit in the description section. So Exodus Summit provides resources for Black women to not only leave the country, but to also be in community with other Black women, right? And to have meetups with other Black women, and to know that there's another way for us to live, that we don't always have to be fighting. We don't always have to be struggling, right? We don't have to wait till 65 till we say, oh, now I can live my life. But what if you don't make it to 65, right? Because of all the stress of work.
When you're so broken down, you can't.
Right. How about that part? Right. Yeah. You're so broken down, you can't do nothing. Right. So yes. So we really want Black women to know. And again, I think so many Black women we're seeing on YouTube right now are showing us there's another way. There's another way for us as Black women. And you asked me earlier when we were on talking before, you said your mom watches me. And she said, I pray for her because I don't know how she does this every week. And I'm telling you, Dr. O, this is therapeutic for me. This is therapy for me. It is. I
can watch now, but in the throes, there were weeks I wouldn't watch you.
Wow.
Because I was so stressed out. And I think for me, it was that mirror, because I didn't want to tell myself it was toxic.
Ooh.
I knew it was, but
What's that? Why not?
Because if you know and you're doing it, we kind of stupid, aren't you?
Okay. So you realize you're lying to yourself. I don't want to know the truth.
I mean, I remember the day I woke up and I wasn't thinking about quitting, but I remember getting up and like, and I couldn't allow myself to say, I don't like this job. Wow. And it's not a hate thing. It was like, it was a lousy job. My problem was I got paid very well.
Yes. The golden the money is good.
It was sweet. Them checks are sweet, but I would sit there like, oh God, I don't like this, so.
And think about the quality of your life, right? So you're thinking about the money is good, but then you think about what type of life am I living with this good money?
Yeah. And then how do you tell
Miserable.
people, because think about it too, a lot of us are the first gen college, first this, first this, first this.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of women probably go through this. They look at me, PhD, top of my game, and I'm sitting here like, oh, I can't stand this.
Yeah.
you look crazy, So
Yeah.
you don't want to go around telling people, I don't like this. This
So
is
a
not
sense of shame. A sense
it's
of
shame.
shame. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. But what something I want to say too
Mhm.
is, and I appreciate you saying that sometimes you avoided watching me because it was like it was too much of a mirror, right? And
Yeah.
so I think several things about that. One is Black women. I think it's important for us to stop lying to ourselves, right? And
Mhm.
sometimes
Yeah.
we say, well, it's not that bad. I'm getting this good check. I'm getting these good things. I'm getting all these things, but I'm miserable, right?
Miserable.
And so when we avoid the truth, it keeps us in these situations longer and we experience harm longer, right?
Mhm.
So I appreciate you saying that
Yeah.
because the avoidance, again, it's not helpful for us, right? Short term, it might help. Like, oh, good. Okay, now I can kind of just be like, okay, let me prepare myself for Monday because probably you experience the Sunday scaries too, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah. Yeah.
I need
Well,
to think
yeah.
about going back to that job tomorrow.
You just and it was always, oh God, what's gonna happen this week?
Oof.
And you just go like,
Anticipating dread.
or because these women had no boundaries, I had to. I mean, I had to put up It was so bad. I would go to church and I would get text.
No,
Oh, it
on a
was
Sunday?
walking out the door and have to say I'm going to church. And I never forget one week they said, "But you didn't write us back. You didn't text me back." Cuz fool, I just told you I was going to
Wow.
church and it's Sunday.
Ooh.
And then, so what they would do is I would get these emails on Sunday night. So you can't even let me rest. So it was
Oh my
armor up
gosh. Ugh.
because I knew what I was going against because it's like, oh, here's the new BS for the week.
Ugh.
So,
Gosh. Adding to
oh,
the adding to the Sunday scaries.
yeah. And so
Ooh.
I was in anticipation. I wouldn't answer emails after a year on the job. I, wouldn't answer, but I didn't like that. I didn't see them. So then
Were
I'm
they on your
thinking
phone
about,
or something?
mhm.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was so bad. I had to put a text ban on where I said, you're not allowed to text me on
Good.
weekends
Good.
unless there's an event. So and I asked them, just schedule the emails.
Yeah. How about
Couldn't
that?
get, nope.
It's nothing that's an emergency.
Sunday night. Girl, ain't nothing in that mission that we did was an emergency. Ain't nothing we did. Nobody was going to, and I would say that at staff meetings, nobody's going to die if we don't
Right.
fulfill our mission. They'll be
Right.
fine. But it was still, you get the email, and you're like, oh.
How disrespectful.
I know.
Disrespectful. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, like I was saying, this is therapeutic for me. So I
Okay.
understand and I appreciate you sharing that with me. And I also see in the chat,
Mhm.
I agree with Dr. O. There are Sundays I can watch the show because it stressed me out
Mhm.
thinking about my negative job situation. I
Yep.
hear you. I hear you. And my hope is that by me doing these videos, that I'm providing you with resources, right?
Right.
So not only the validation of I feel you, sis, right? I've been there, I feel you. And let's start thinking about ways that you don't always have to stay in this environment, right? So it might be
Yeah.
short term that you're in this situation, but I would say avoiding looking at it is not going to help us long term. And then for me, I'm telling you, Dr. O, I could be tired. Last week, I had wisdom teeth extractions. I still was on here. Okay,
Yeah.
also Danielle. Danielle's in the audience now. I was still there because I'm like pumped up. This is therapeutic for me. And when I am talking about and hearing from other Black women, it validates not only my own experience, but I'm like, dang, so many of us are going through the same exact thing. So, Dr. O, you alluded to having those headaches, right?
Mhm.
And just that sense of dread. And I just think about for us as Black women, how many of us are experiencing some types of symptoms, right?
Right.
But on some level, again, because we are nurturers, because we've been brought up to work twice as hard to get half as much,
Yeah.
that oftentimes we feel like the need to down a sword, right? We're going to put our body on a sword. We're going to save this organization, but we don't think about saving ourselves. So can you talk a little bit more about the symptoms that you were starting to experience at that job, physical and or psychological?
Well, one I can tell you, and it's so funny, and you don't even think it's related. I kept having knee pain. I mean, my knees were hurt. My knees were hurt so bad, I thought I needed knee surgery.
Oh.
I wake up and my knees were throbbing all the time. And I promise you, so a week after I left the job, I have to go to the doctor every quarter because of my high blood pressure medicine. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there and I said, I gotta, because I would always forget to tell her about my knees. And I said, I'm going to tell her about my knees. And I forgot. And then I looked around and I said, my knees haven't hurt it.
Isn't that crazy? It's the inflammation from stress.
I'm serious. My knees have not hurt since I left that job.
Isn't that
they
something?
Used to throb so bad. I really did. Because I wanted to talk to her because I was like, I think I'm gonna end up having to have knee replacement.
In your 50s?
I didn't know. All I know, there were some nights I would be up and my knees were hurt. Ooh. And I couldn't sleep because my knees were hurt so much.
Oh gosh.
And I was starting to get to the point where I was putting knee braces on both knees.
Oh my.
And I'm thinking, oh God, I must be wearing my knees out. And I'm sitting there and I'll never forget. I was just sitting again on this couch, sitting there like, I gotta remind her, tell her about my knees. And then realizing, wait, my knees haven't hurt. And my knees have not hurt since I left that job.
Wow. Well, I can say since I resigned from that job, I do not wake up not one day in dread. Not one day. Right? When I was at the job towards the end, every day I wake up in dread. I could barely get out the bed. Like, oh God, I can't say it's like all the other symptoms, except for I'm still trying to work on the weight loss thing, but weight gain. But every other thing has gotten so much better. So did you experience any spiritual harm or did it impact you spiritually being at that job?
I think spiritual, because like now I'm still, when it comes to church, I'm dragging and I'm tired. So it's making me reshift everything. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, I go to predominantly white church too. So it's that I'll just be transparent. That's all I know how to do. I got so sick of those whites at my job. I was like, I don't feel like being bothered with that.
It's like a reminder.
With it. Yeah, because it's that and I just having a hard time. And so
not safe anymore. Yeah.
I don't feel safe. And so and I love my pastor, but I'm just don't want to be bothered. So that has impacted me.
Yeah. Because I remember when I was at the toxic job towards the end, I was questioning, like, God, why would you do this to me? Like, why would you put me in a situation? Why do people coming at me like this? You know, I'm a good person. I've never done things to hurt people. You know, I'm committed to the work. Like, God, why are you doing this to me? And I was really like, God, well, I don't understand this. You know, I'm a good person. But my Black woman therapist was the one who said, God is actually trying to save you from this situation. God, this is your rescue mission from God. You need to pay attention, right? Because God knows there's something bigger and better for you, right? But before I talk to her about it, I'm in my head thinking, God is trying to punish me. God's trying to punish me.
I just kept thinking, what is it about me that you would treat me so bad? And like I said, I don't know you. I came in there, I was from the outside. I could not understand. And then I just kept seeing that majority culture thing going. So that's where my thing, it was just like, I'm just tired of all y'all. I'm just going to go sit over here because y'all don't treat people well.
Right. So what are the things, Dr. O, that you would say to yourself? So you noticed that they weren't treating you right. They weren't treating other people right. What were the things? I want Black women to be able to hear this, right? Because I used to tell myself lies all the time, right? Oh, it's not that bad. Oh, at least I'm getting a paycheck. Oh, lie. It's not bothering me. Lie. What were you saying to yourself up until that point where you were like, I'm out? What were you saying to yourself so that you could stay there?
The biggest lie I kept telling myself was, because when you're a nonprofit, most nonprofits are jacked up, Black or white. They don't run against best practices because you just got a bunch of volunteers who don't know what they're doing. So usually when you're consulting, you come in and that's where the education and the recommendations, you know, like I'm working with a client now. She actually got her financial records and she actually has a banking account. I'm sitting over there shocked because people usually don't have those things. So I kept telling myself, if I educate them and show them best practices and show them that I know what I'm doing, they'll come around.
Oh, so they will respond to the logic, right? That's the part too. I think what trips us up is
You love that logic, yeah.
Right? We're like, wait a minute, it doesn't logically make sense. Well, let me, if I show them this way, or if I get clarity, or maybe if I meet them, or maybe, no, none of that's going to work. It's not going to work.
Me and my development director, he's a Black man, wrote all these over 250 pages worth of reports, forecast reports. If I just show you the logic, if I just show you the plan, if I just show you what I'm thinking. I did early on, I did a presentation about where they are in the life cycle. And one of the fools told me, oh, I just thought that was theoretical. Showed them 50 years of research to show why we had to diversify our fundraising strategy.
So even with the logic, they're going to minimize it.
Oh, I had never been so outlandishly scoffed in my life. I'm sitting there like, and I can't tell you, which drives me crazy, how many times I'm like, I literally have 35 years of experience in this thing. And then I have the nerve to have a PhD in the subject that you hired me for.
Okay, I have to ask you this. Dr. O. I got to ask you this. Yeah. Okay. So the people that you're trying to convince with logic, did they have anywhere near your credentials and experience?
Honey, they couldn't even fit.
Anywhere near.
I'm sorry.
Anywhere near.
I'm going to put it this way. I've been replaced by a woman that got 0.6 years of nonprofit experience.
You said 0.6.
0.6. And I'm being generous. And then I got we could just do this with volunteers.
What?
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Wow. And the reason I asked you that, several reasons. One is, as Black women, as Black people, we've been told we got to be twice as better than everybody else, right? And they are literally mediocre at best. And not only do they get the jobs, but guess what? They're the supervisors. Like what?
I reported to a board who did. I don't think any. I mean, forget the nonprofit management best practices. Even in their corporate, they had no. There was few that had small business acumen. None of them were really managers. They were like cogs in their corporate jobs. And they would say things like, we know how to do a strategic plan, but we don't have one. And then, when they gave me the strategic plan, girl, it was a PowerPoint. I had given 250 pages of report. And then they looked at me in my face and said to me, now you can align this PowerPoint to your 250 pages. And I think by that time, the beginning and the end was starting, and I just nicely wrote, I said, well, I got this PowerPoint, but where's the report? So as soon as you send me a report, I'll align my 250 pages of documentation.
Wow.
And that's how I was like, you gave me a PowerPoint.
They couldn't take that, right? It reminds me of what my dear friend Colette Elizabeth said. She said, watch out when you're in the workplace and you see these qualities, particularly of a supervisor: incompetent, insecure, immature, right? Watch out.
Oh, when I see that insecurity, I'm just like, oh, here we go.
Yes. You can see it, right?
Here we go. It's coming.
And how did they respond? I'm going to ask you this too. How did they respond to you having a doctorate?
Oh, and you probably like this. You got your doctorate. You're proud. And I do, like, my VA will not call me by my first name. And I'm fine with that because she respects me. I'm okay, though, if you call me Orletta. But it had gotten to the point. I remember sitting at one meeting, and these women were calling my name out like I was their pal.
Yeah.
And it was so offensive that I had to go to my team and say, okay, we got to stop this. And I remember my development director, one time they had a report and then he had to stop and say, wait a minute, it's Dr. Orletta Caldwell. What are we doing?
Wow.
There were some that were so disrespectful that I had to amp up. Excuse me. I'm not your pal. I'm Dr. Caldwell.
Yeah.
Again, I came from the outside as Dr. Caldwell. You're not my pal. You didn't know me when.
Right.
And again, I had the stuff, I had the credentials in the field you hired me for.
Right.
And I had one woman say, I don't know why she calls you doctor. Isn't that offensive to you?
What? Why would that be offensive to you? What is she talking about?
I don't know.
Oh my God. You talk about just so ignorant.
So then I started getting to, okay, put some respect on the name. It's Dr. Caldwell.
Wow.
Not your pal.
Right.
Yeah, and it was very offensive.
Very offensive. And I just want to say I commend you with that. And this is something in full transparency that I still have to practice self-forgiveness for myself about.
Right.
That when I was in that workplace, I was the only clinical psychologist in the whole district, the whole school district, right? By the time I left. And the workplace bully never, ever, ever acknowledged that I had a doctorate. Never. Right. And I was like, oh, whatever, but I don't care. You know what I'm saying? But that's in a message, right? That she felt that it was okay and that she never acknowledged.
Yes. And that was her little passive aggressive dig. And I really realized that.
Yes.
Because in my heart, I'm Orletta. And I'm the type person, like I do a lot of workforce development work. You know, they already feel, out of the way with the populations I've been working with. So the last thing I need is this barrier. But it was getting to the point, this ain't a barrier. You're just being disrespectful. And I'm not going to do it. We're not going to play this game. And I had another PhD on my staff. We had to say, okay, we got to draw a line here. This is doctor. Forget it. I'm not your pal. Yeah, so it was crazy.
It was crazy. So, Dr. O, you said that heard the voice, God was with you, and you're like, oh, shoot, I got to take immediate action, right? So you did it. Did you have any fears as you were with that?
I didn't have a contract, so I did ask for a severance.
Okay.
There was no guarantee I was going to get it.
But
and another thing they did, because I wasn't saying because I knew I was the ED and I had a lot of meetings and a lot of stuff. Like I said, this was not planned. So it wasn't like I was sending stuff off. This was abrupt. This was, I'm getting out of here. So
like an effective immediately thing?
Yeah. So I didn't say effective immediately. I was more like, I don't want to, still being stupid. I don't want to affect the operation.
Pause. As a therapist, I got to pause you with that. What did you mean by that?
I was like, I will work out a reasonable transition.
Okay. So you were being compassionate towards them or respectful towards them.
I was trying to be respectful.
Okay. So I just want us to be mindful as Black women.
Can't do it.
Language, and we're not going to say being stupid.
Okay, I got you. But I feel like at the time, I felt because what happened, what I got was, oh no, effective immediately. So here I am trying to work out a reasonable transition not to affect operations, and you turn around and say effective immediately.
Wow.
I said, okay. And my thing was, okay, but what they didn't know was I took my name off the banking account immediately, and I called the state and said, I don't have nothing to do with this grant, because we had gotten a huge grant from I'm like, I don't want nothing to do with the money.
Immediately after the resignation, you did that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I was going to check me. You're not going to have me messed up.
Don't cover yourself. That's right.
Mm-hmm. So that's why I felt stupid, because here I am trying to be reasonable about it. Then, so I had no idea if I was going to get the severance or not, but I did explain to them, because when she said effective immediately, I said, okay. I asked for a severance, and she said, well, the board is going to talk about that. I said, okay, let me explain, because the east side of Detroit, I was trying to be nice and say, I said, I'm serious about my money. So I really don't want to escalate this.
Oh.
But okay. And so I knew the board meeting came and went. I hadn't heard anything. So I did eventually have to go to the attorney.
So whoa. That was my next question. So you did this without consulting with an attorney first?
I had talked to an attorney earlier about what I can do and everything. Okay. But no, at the time I wrote the letter, I was just like, I'm out. Give me a separation.
Wow.
Hoping in good faith. But I knew I had to. I mean, that voice was intent. When it said, "What do you do?" I knew this.
Yeah.
Me and GPT sat down and wrote a letter.
Oh, you ChatGPT. Okay.
Me and Chat, we go back. That's
okay.
So I did draft a letter with them. And one of the things the attorney told me was you're a protected class.
Ah, okay.
And what we do is we don't want to talk about race because we don't want them to say, hey, the race card, even though they're being racist against you, we don't want to bring up race.
Card. That's whatever.
It's one of those pit.
Yes.
But I did, in my letter, I brought up the fact that as a person of color, I can document that this wasn't cool. Uh-huh. And I did mention I was protected class, class United States, blah, 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 blah. I brought it up because I talked to that attorney. And it wasn't that it wasn't happening. It's just I didn't bring it up because I didn't want to look like, oh, she's just laying on race. Right. When it was race, that a lot of it was, we got this Black woman. I'm sorry, that was it. You got this Black woman. She's overqualified.
Yeah.
And she ain't going to tell us what to do.
That part. Okay. Did you ever feel, because I feel like did you feel at any point like they were trying to put you in your place?
Oh, yeah.
As an uppity Black woman who got this PhD, like she thinks she da-da-da-da.
I always got the mean girl. She doesn't know how to communicate. Oh, because I didn't tell you, about a year ago, they got me an executive coach.
Oh!
Fortunately, executive coach.
They got you executive coach.
They got me an executive coach. They got it under the premise of they're going to teach me how to be a better professional. Again, I'm going to say this again. I'm 58 years old. I have 35 years of experience. Wow. I have probably been in higher circles than they can dream about.
Wait a minute, Dr. O. OMG. I just had a reaction. You seem to lean to the camera. Wait a minute. Mm-hmm. Wait a minute. Okay. So you're more qualified. You have more experience than them. Right? In terms of being in the field, you got a PhD, all this stuff, right? You're the executive director, but they get you an executive coach to help you to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And actually had her interview people. So what they found out was everybody knew I was smarter than them, had more qualifications, and was moving the organization to a higher level. So the only thing she could come up with was, they don't know, and I quote, they don't know what to do with you.
What?
And what's funny about that, I was told that on a job years ago, is when you're educated, you're smart, and they don't know what to do with you.
Wow. And the fact that she had the nerve to say, now we already know that. We already know that's Black people, right? We know we coming in there. We know we intimidate them. We know that, right? But for them to say that.
They did not know what to do with me. Ooh. I guess I was not compliant enough or whatever. I've never been rude. I wasn't even a force of terror that I could have been. Because again, I wasn't there for all of that.
What do they mean by that? What do they mean they didn't know what to do with you? What do they mean?
They wanted me to be as dumb as they were, and I couldn't get there. I said, well, maybe they need to sit down and shut up and learn something. Because that was my attitude. Wow. Like, I don't have to change. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm trying to get our mission stronger and get us. I mean, they've been in existence for decades, and nobody even knows about them in the state. You've been here for all these years, and no one knows about you. I was trying to build our ecosystem. I was trying to pull up our thought leadership in what they do in the mission. I was trying to get, and you're going to sit here and you're mad because I'm not one of the girls or something. I don't know.
Wow. Yes, Missa. Yes, Queen. Yes, Miss Ann. You weren't doing that. You weren't bowing down like that, right? And I see a comment
Right.
that you didn't get along to get along enough, right? Go along to get along.
Get
And I
along.
think, to me, I see it as like buck breaking, like in slavery, right? Like they
Yeah.
try to break you down to like be subservient and kind of cower down and but just exploit your labor. But you're not supposed to say anything. You're not supposed to.
And then that fake friendship crap.
Oh,
I remember when we're all tired of a team. I said, look.
It gets worse and worse.
I had to do a session so we can see how we can work together better. And they're like, we're all part of the team. And I'm like, you're volunteering. I work for you. I said, if you don't like it, you can leave. I said, if I don't like it and leave, DTE, that's the energy company here, wants their money. I'm not here. I'm not part of your team. And I said, if I was part of your team, the way you treat me, I don't feel very team-like with you.
What are they talking about so we can get along better? What are they talking about?
Because Orletta wasn't acquiescent to their bull.
So they wanted to be like warm and fuzzy and
well, let's be friends, and we're all friends.
We're not friends. It's a job. But you're right. They're volunteers.
And that's what I'm trying to explain. I get paid to be here.
Right.
I am doing my job.
Paid to be your friend. Yeah.
I will be cordial with you. I can hug you.
Right.
Whatever. I am not your friend. I had to tell them I have friends. I have a wonderful social network. I love them.
Boundaries. You talk about poor boundaries.
Very poor boundaries.
Wow.
Well, I'm going to tell you the story that shook of me and kind of shifted everything.
Girl, not more.
Oh, girl.
What?
Well, there was a woman that worked with me, for me. She was on my team. But she was buddies. When I say buddies, drink wine, share children, drive down the road, everything. So she had in her head, because she was friends with a lot of people on the board, truthfully, she didn't have to do what I say. And I was hesitant it's terrible at her job. I don't care what anybody said. She was terrible. And it was getting to the point of starting to affect the team because she was getting paid a lot of money. And there was something that the board wanted that she had to do. Okay. What she doesn't realize first, because she had a role, we took the supervision from her so she can do this one job. I think she's mad at me. She doesn't know that was her girlfriends that came up with that. And that's why that part of her job, it was brilliant. Uh-huh. I thought, wow, you do that to a friend? Okay, whatever. So we took that. That didn't work. So that's finally
they're showing you right in your face how they treat their friends, right? Okay. But we should get along and we should be buddy. Okay, got it.
Yeah, like friends like that. So
like that data, yes.
Months go on, it's getting worse. And finally I had to seek for termination. Now, here I go again. We Black women covering our bases. I'm like, hey, I think she's doing this because I called these board members. Hey, I think she's doing this because she's friends. Now, I know as Black women, even if we don't really like you, we're going to tap on somebody's show your little girlfriend. You jacking up. She's up. Yeah, she's seeking termination for you because I ain't in it. I don't know what I can do. Right. So I'm thinking, let me tell them. So finally got to the point I said, well, I can't talk about it no more. I'm going for termination. So I thought, and I put it in an email, I'm seeking termination. I just knew, because again, sisters, we going to, girl, yeah. Virtual Lois, get your stuff packed. She about to let you go. Yes. So when I fired her, I realized they didn't tell her nothing. Because the termination process went for 6 weeks, because it was, making sure all I's are dotted and T's are crossed, because she was friends with them. Wow. And I was ready for the blowback. Do you know what the attitude was? What? So she's terminated, right? She ain't getting no severance, right? No. Oh, okay. That's their friend. Woo! So I looked like, wow. Cold. They did that to her. Woo! What did they do to you? Girl, I get right on the wall. I'm still shook, not from my situation, from that situation. That's There was a Black woman on my board because I whispered to her, I said, wouldn't you give me a heads up? She said, girl, you know I would have told you something. I said, okay. Because it was like, that's how you treat your friends. I knew from that day. I had never seen such viciousness, just such. And she wrote a letter, and they were more like getting themselves out legally, just making sure, but it wasn't any concern. The kind of emotion that if somebody was my friend and they could have been justifiably fired, I still kind of would have been like,
right.
And the girl had heads up. She had heads up.
Oh,
and that freaked me out so bad. So I think that was just preparing me, like,
Yeah. Well, that really showed you who you were working with, for real, right? So can you take a step back? Because I think for those who don't know that much about nonprofits, now I feel like I know a whole bunch more. But for Black women who watch this right now, and they don't know that much about nonprofits, they may not understand, like, how can these people be volunteers? Like, who are these people? Like, how they have this much power? Can you kind of give a backstory about why that is?
The nonprofit field, basically, if you have something a mission that you want to push, you want to open up a food pantry. The law says you sign up, you develop a nonprofit organization at the state level, and then if you want tax exemption, you do it on the federal level.
Okay.
That's it. You don't hear anything about having nonprofit. You
don't have to have credentials or experience, nothing.
No. So then I need a board, because the nonprofit in the United States is ran by boards. It's a nonprofit corporation. So it's not like the founder runs it, it's run by a board. I need a board. So I can get a couple of friends together and we're now the board.
Wow.
Yeah. If they don't go for training, if they don't get any resources, if they don't even try to understand the nonprofit field.
And these were just all volunteers?
All volunteers.
Okay. And you alluded to this, but I just want to make sure we understand. Did they look like us?
Oh, there was one.
Only one?
One or two.
Okay. Yeah. And the history of nonprofits, just give us a little high level overview of the history of nonprofits that you told me before.
Okay. Well, in the United States, and this is what I tell people, and I'm going to tell you from the Black, I'm African-American Black focused. So y'all got to forget me. I'm about to put my hotep on.
Okay.
But the United States, the nonprofit system as it stands today is a uniquely American thing. That's what we say. When you think about the nonprofit field, you think about Andrew Carnegie, John Rockefeller, whatever. And it's this story of these rich people giving of themselves and everybody in America giving of themselves for all these types of missions. And it's so uniquely American and so important in the United States that we give tax exemptions towards your work. So you can take your profits, even though we call it nonprofit, we can take your profits, your reserves, and just drive it back into the mission because you're doing it on behalf of society. It's supposed to be a stewardship thing. What they don't say is, these guys raped, pillaged the land, stole, and gorged themselves. Now they're filthy rich and they have to whitewash their backgrounds and give their white wives something to do. That's the nonprofit system. That's why you don't get paid as much, because in the beginning, those philanthropists, their wives didn't need any money. They're rich, so they can do that work. So where does that fall with Black people? And then that's another thing. They had the time too. We have to work. So it wasn't until, like, we've always had philanthropy. Like I think I mentioned last time, since 1693, we've always had benevolent organizations, but Black organizations run differently because, we're all working anyway. Like my mom told me years ago, the ERA wasn't for Black women work. So we're working, but we also always give back to the community. That's why we half dead, because we're still working, going to church and doing all that stuff. Yeah. But that's how it works in that regular, I'll call it the regular nonprofit system. And so it's predominantly white. And ironically, most of the executives of the top nonprofits are white males, but it's predominantly white females in the nonprofit sector. And when I was writing my dissertation, there was white racial framework, and there was a part of it that the reason I used it for my theory was because he said that the epitome of society in white racial framework is white is the epitome of civilization. So even if you're race averse, everything is permeated on white is right, right superiority.
Yes.
It's a standard that even if you are race averse, subconsciously you still feel superior when you're white. So that's why you have the liberal leaning whites. They still treat you like shit, you know.
With a smile, and give you a hug, but be stabbing you in the back.
And you're bleeding, and you don't know what happened to you because subconsciously they still feel superior.
True.
So we are not predominant in the nonprofit sector at all. At all. Not the big ones. We have our own, and we have a few. But last time I was on here, I had people say you're brave to talk about this. I don't know if it's brave. I'm just saying, I'm just gonna tell y'all like it is. But that's the nonprofit sector. So basically, you have a bunch of people that's volunteering. They may not know, but they're running it. And for a lot of people, I find in nonprofits, and particularly for this group, this was their only source of power they have in their lives.
That's scary.
Yeah. So they gonna run.
You don't know what you're doing.
Don't have a clue.
And you got power, girl. That sounds. Oh my God!
I got this power in this.
Girl, that sounds like what's happening right now in the United States.
Oh yeah, I've seen a lot of parallels lately.
Right, with the government. Oh my gosh!
And that's exactly what's going on. You got all these people, and they got that power for the first time, and they run with it. And
incompetent.
And that's why
insecure and immature. Yes.
And that is why one of the things was when I was leaning towards that process, I was like, this is y'all organization. Y'all can do what y'all want. Why am I fighting you about your organization? God bless you.
So at a certain point, it sounds like you were committed to the mission. You were like, I'm going to stay a few more years, but then you start feeling more physical symptoms, more emotional symptoms. And then you started like, wait a minute. And then you're hearing the voice of God and all that kind of stuff. So then you're able to pull back. Now, what happened after you sent that resignation in? You said you wanted your severance. What ended up happening?
Well, they said effective immediately. And then I found out, so that's when I went and got the attorney. And the attorney wrote a letter, of course. But what I found out they were doing, they went back all through 2024 because I think they were going to look for financial malfeasance.
Oh, they trying to set you up.
Even though they had been in deficit for 3 years, and the first year, prior to the year I got there, they didn't even know they were in a deficit. It was because my dummy self said, y'all.
Dr. O, no. Let's just say, no, not your dummy self.
That's right.
You were sometimes we extend grace to people and situations, but it's not a dummy self.
I was trying because the board treasurer, who happened to be Black, she would announce every week we're in deficit, but it never registered because the prior ED who had no nonprofit experience either or no leadership experience, so they were running around a deficit when I got there.
Wow, and didn't even know it.
And I remember this one meeting in particular. It was this board meeting because I was where we were really saying, hey, we are in a deficit. And I was ready for questions. And they just said, oh, okay. But then the next month that I said, well, if we're in a deficit, should we be paying for the holiday board mixer?
Oh my God.
Well, the world blew up. What did she say that for?
What? Wow. So now you're the bad person.
I was the bad person from then on.
It sounds like this. Okay, so you're the executive director. Your job is to tell them the truth about what's happening with the organization, right? It just reminds me of Jack Nicholson and A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth, right? But you can handle it.
Because I'm in Michigan and I kept, we had the auto strike and I was seeing things like, hey, looks like, I said, we're not in a recession. We're in a perceived recession, but corporations have a tendency to hold their money back. Most of our money came from corporations. So it wasn't like this big prophecy. I'm looking at the trends.
Right.
I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Hey, I said, The corporations are not in the business to keep nonprofits open. They'll change their philosophy on you. We're going to be in trouble. Oh, you stupid black woman. They might. I would have felt better if they just said, "You stupid black woman."
Well, they treated you like that, though.
Well, yeah,
they treated you like that.
They could have just said it. I think I would have felt better because they act like, "Well, what are you talking about, dummy?" I swear to you, 2 months later, because I thought it'd be 6 months. 2 months later, corporations are backtracking.
Yeah,
and they're shocked. And one of the women that actually came, she said, she was like, I just can't believe they're doing this and blah. And then I guess I was looking at her like,
wow. But
it also said, I guess you know this.
Well, it speaks to like their reality is so different from ours as Black people, right? They're shielded from so much stuff. Like we're always aware of what's going on. We got to be aware of what's happening, what's coming down the pipeline. But that's what happened. You have a privileged life.
Yeah. And so what's going on now? So I finally what put everything to a head at the end of the year. So like I said, we did the reports, finally got the infrastructure, because they didn't even, now they talk about decision rights, but they don't tell you the reason you brought up decision rights is because Dr. Caldwell was like, what's the boundaries here? They didn't even know their own paperwork. They didn't know their own bylaws, nothing. They just, oh Lord, I can tell you the things they did. So finally, good Black woman, got it straight now, got a plan now, got my team, got rid of the, we ready to go. They wanted me to cut the budget by $200,000. I said, well, I think I have a plan and I know what I'm doing. Give me 6 months. Okay. And if I'm totally off the board and you find out Dr. Caldwell don't know what she's talking about, we can redo the budget. No, we got to do 200,000. I'm like, that doesn't make sense.
Well, how are they gonna come up with that? They're not even wearing the books anyway.
I know. They weren't even aware.
Wow.
Until I said something.
Wow.
And I was like, well, we got the forecast that you have never received before in your life. We got the reports. This is why, and then it was one program. I was like, well, cut that program because I told you it was a waste of time and it doesn't align with our mission. No, we want that So they kept going back and forth. And I was like, okay. Then I knew they were crazy because they met the day before Christmas Eve for a board meeting. I was on a cruise. I said, I can't come. I'm on vacation.
Time of my time, okay?
I'm not. I'll be drinking a nice little dark beverage. Y'all have at it. That's when they were like, well, when they came from that meeting, that's when I found out they didn't like my tone because I told them I'm not going to be, you're not going to take my pretty Black face. That's what I actually said. And make me the face of retrenchment. When I'm telling you, I know I can get us out of here if you give me 6 months.
Wow. Girl, you were too much for them. It was just too much. It was just too much. They couldn't, it was like your brilliance, your directness, they just couldn't tell. You telling the truth. It was too much.
I was working from, because we both academics, you don't make opinions. You make opinions based upon the body of knowledge.
Yeah.
So I can cite anything I say, particularly if I'm recommended it to you professionally. I'm going to cite it.
Right.
I'm not here just saying this because even though I do know and I'm looking at it, it was like it's plain as day. This is what's going to happen next. I have seen this before.
Right.
And they were just like, no.
Wow.
And then they were just doing that. And I got to fill in. What they were going to do with the finances. And then, if something fall apart, it was because that was one of my concerns about leaving. I didn't want the organization to fall apart. And they say, see what the Black girl did.
Right. And you also covered your butt because you knew that they could try to associate with you some accounts or something like that. So you were like, you put people on notice. Nope. I'm not a part of this organization. Nope. So at this point, Dr. O, I don't know if are you still in a space of them giving you your severance?
I was supposed to get it on in the next few days. Yeah, I called. Where's my money?
Okay. I'm not playing with you.
That's talking to you. And they said, and we're going to send a copy to you and send a copy to your attorney. Okay, thank you.
Good, good. Well, I'm glad you got an attorney because I think they
Oh,
would have
yeah.
been in your face if you didn't.
Oh, no, they wouldn't have taken me. She was going to try to say something about at will. I was like, okay, we're not. But I told them, I'm not playing that game with you.
Wow.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's what I need Black women to understand. They're not your friends.
No.
And it's business. It ain't personal. Okay. And one of the things I can say is, even though every check my cousin always said this, he says, every check I ever received on that job, I didn't have to put a mask on and rob anybody. I worked for that money. So my attitude was, and I put it in the Quest Mutual, I said, I want a severance because in my nicest way, I was trying to say, you wasted my time and I could have been doing other things. And I need that bridge. And I did. That was the one thing I didn't feel like dealing with, because in the past I would just quit and then I got to run and find something else. And I wasn't in the mood for that.
Good.
I didn't do this.
Good.
I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, absolutely not.
My attitude.
And you took your power back, and like the anti-HR lady, and you leave with your coins. You leave with your coins. Okay?
Leave with your coins.
Yes.
Revolutionary. Anne Marie says that, and it's revolutionary because we think we got to go from struggle to struggle. And the reason why we get back into yet another toxic job, because we don't even have time to breathe.
Right. And we don't know what our options are, too.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Dr. O, okay, I want to ask you. No, okay, let me ask you this first question first. So, if there's a Black woman watching right now, and I'm going to read the community chat because they've been typing quite a bit. Okay. So, if there's a Black woman watching right now and she could resonate with anything that you shared, anything we discussed today, what words of wisdom would you share with her?
We are spiritual beings. When that voice that you heard is telling you, get out, don't be sitting there talking, because I didn't tell this part. I did have a plan to leave in August. I had a countdown on my phone. And then I had a plan where I was going to put my resignation in and work out the rest of the year.
Okay.
I, in the past, would have said, oh, no, Lord, I can't leave because of this. I can't leave because of that.
You got to negotiate with the Lord. With
God. Talk about it. And when that voice said, move, you move. And stop going to these churches and then you don't trust or believe anything you heard.
Wow.
He's been taking care of me for 58 years. He ain't going to stop at year 59. Listen to that voice. And I'm going to tell you why. Because since I've left, they've gotten rid of most of my team. Yeah, they got rid of all of them. And they canceled maybe over 80% of the programs. So if I had stayed there and didn't leave the way I did, first of all, I would have got my butt fired. They would have came up with something and come up with something that I did wrong or whatever, or tried to say, and they would have messed, me worrying about my name, they would have messed up my name.
Right.
They would have messed up the narrative. I would probably not get the money I'm getting.
True.
And I wouldn't have been able, I'm talking about ecosystems and thought leadership, none of that mattered to them. And so I would have been out. And then I would have been on here crying about how they did me wrong and blah, blah, blah.
And I was so dedicated and I tried to save this organization.
Yeah.
The ship was sinking and you saw it. You got off the lifeboat with your coins, right?
Coins. And
why did they do that to your team?
Well, they say they don't have the money because now they're not raising any money now.
Wow.
I had to plan. We were pulling in new companies and everything, which I could, it's like, why am I talking? I told you I had a plan.
Oh my God.
So yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Very sad. Okay. So what does your life look like now, Dr. O? Are you going to take a break? What are you doing now? I hope you're taking a little break.
I thought it was. Well, the one thing I did was I always like teaching. I do like teaching. So I was an adjunct teacher. So I did tell the dean, She gave me another class.
Okay.
Then I have another application. So this other school is hiring me on for adjunct. So that's
Back up. Okay.
So I took 3 classes.
Wait. When does the other teaching thing happen? When does that take place?
The next couple of months. So I still
have you have a little cushion. Okay, got it. Okay.
So that's why. So I had that. So ladies, stop putting all your eggs in one basket. Got to come up with something else on the side.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing I do, I've had a company, LLC. It's Beyond Existing Enterprises. I do nonprofit consulting, and right now I'm taking a class now to really hone in on what I'm going to offer.
Okay.
And so, but one thing I am going to do is a virtual summit. My background is, like I said, faith-based organizations, and I'm focusing on us, African Americans, African-American-led nonprofits, eventually the African diaspora.
Okay.
But I'm having a virtual summit. We're planning it now. I think it's going to end up being May, where we come in for 3 days and we're going to talk about what churches can do that have community organizations or want to start an organization, how to do it correctly, stay in compliance, raise money, and do everything. Because my attitude and my theme is we're due for a reconstruction. I call it Reconstruction 2.0 as Blacks.
I agree.
And the church was directly attributable to Black culture and Black nonprofits and Black community development. And we have to get back to that. And we have the tools to do it. So that's my aim and my focus right now.
True. I think the timing is divine, given what's going on right now, particularly in the United States. And we think about the church has often been the first place of healing for so many of us Black people. So I think the timing is perfect. So what are the best ways to contact you, Dr. O?
I do have a YouTube channel. It's called The Urban Nonprofit. And under that same name, I have an online platform for anybody who's Black in a nonprofit. And then for the consulting or everything you need is on beyondexisting.com. Okay.
Everybody, I have all her information in the description section. Okay. So if you on LinkedIn, you just go to YouTube. So you can check out all of Dr. O's contact information. So Dr. O, I'm going to read the community chat and then we're going to start winding down. Okay. So I see happy post International Women's Day, Sisters Peace. Thank you. Happy International Women's Day. Yes, thank you. God lets us know when the season is over. So too, we just got to pay attention. That's the part. Oh my gosh. Woo, we need to pay attention. Okay. Hello, all the stuff that's unhealthy for us. Hey, Danielle, I see you. Facts for Black women. It's fighting for our lives. We as Black women need to prioritize our well-being. I agree with Dr. O. Right. So she was saying she wasn't watching also because it stressed her out thinking about, again, I just want to say to Black women that my hope is that these videos that I'm doing provide a sense of validation for you. Right. So I don't want anybody to avoid the reality. You know that you're in this situation. Right. But it's important to know you're not alone, but also know about resources. Yes. Because when you know that there's an exit, there's a way out, you're starting to take your power back, right? Ooh, this comment. Wow, the assholes. So glad you are out. Wish you both healing recipes. Thank you, sis.
Thank you.
Thank you for this conversation. It's very timely. Yes, the inflammation from stress is so real. Dr. Kamani, you're in my closet. I thought it wasn't that bad until I had a near nervous breakdown in my doctor's office. Yes, we cannot minimize it. We cannot.
And don't get to that point. Stop. You know when you don't feel right.
Yes. You know it. You know it, right? So please get in therapy. Again, start exit planning. Nobody needs to know you're exit planning, okay? I got resources. I got so many resources for you. For real. Okay, in the chat, so many resources for you. And we're about to have our second annual Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women, May 16th and 18th. So if you want to check that out, get on the waiting list, okay? So again, start getting an exit plan together. ChatGPT wrote my resignation letter too. Okay, our stories are all the same. Ooh, thanks. I think I'll use ChatGPT soon. We talked about that. I think, oh yes, okay. Watch out when they use words like team and family. Yes, That is such a red flag. Oh, we're
If
all a
they say family, run.
Girl.
Seriously, if they say family, I'm out the door.
True,
nope.
true. When they say they don't know what to do with you, it usually means you literally blow up their stereotypes about. So true, so true. Corporate America absolutely sucks. It doesn't always suck, but these days, I don't know how much longer I can do this. I would say it doesn't matter what job. I'm telling you, sis, it doesn't matter, right? They are, oh, I'm not, okay, let me just say this. Not all jobs are toxic, okay? But Black women, we have higher rates of experiencing toxic work environments because of issues of racism and sexism, okay? So when you recognize that your job is toxic, and I want to quote Dr. Antoinette Bonnie Candia Bailey, the woman who took her life because of issues of workplace bullying, she chronicled her whole experience. And something that she said was, when you recognize that the job is toxic, I'm paraphrasing, you need to leave immediately. You need to start planning to leave because it's not going to get better. Okay. My hope is that we pay attention to what happened to her. Okay. I'm literally studying this phenomena for my dissertation. This is something, yes. Okay. It also means a sign that they are at their wits' end on how to handle us. We don't have any friends in our job, period. I just want to say, sometimes we don't, but then sometimes we do, right? Because I do have some very good friends that I met at the toxic job, right? But I use some discernment, okay? So my mentor talked about collect data points. So start observing people that you maybe want to be friends with. Are they talking about other people behind their back, right? Check them out before you decide to share information with them. But I wouldn't say completely no, but for the most part, no. Okay.
Yeah. Like there was one job I left. I got one person I talk to all the time. She's my friend.
Yeah. But again, you just got to use that discernment. Okay. Yep. That is classic narcissism. Wow. She knows her stuff. It's clear that she was a threat. Yes. Talk about it. I never knew why nonprofits were so white and felt odd, had very little understanding of people of color or poor people. Girl, Dr. O just laid it out for us. Okay. She cut into the white meat. I'm sure she made enemies. They weren't ready. No, they weren't. They cannot stand our brilliance, right? No. They would hire us for it, but they really can't stand it. Really can't. Okay. Yeah. I never knew this stuff either. The ignorance is unbelievable, but they are quick to say we are unqualified. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. They wouldn't have hired us. Right? Because they don't just up and hire us. We got to be over and above.
You always, right? I don't walk in. That's why I laugh about the DEI and affirmative action. I have not walked in one who wasn't totally overqualified.
Girl, the whole thing about this whole merit-based thing, look at who's in the cabinet.
That's what I'm on the board.
Who's the president.
If you look at the nonprofit boards and you want to talk about qualifications, it's a joke.
It's a joke. You lied to my face. Stop. You better just shut up with that nonsense, right? I used to work in a nonprofit, and that is typical for these departments, organizations to be financially in a deficit. So they hire us to fix it. Yep. What I read too, Dr. O, and I'm sure you saw this too, that Black women are typically hired into failing organizations for us to fix it, right? But they don't support us in the process. And when something goes wrong, then we take the fall for it. Yeah.
And that is why I'm glad I listened to the voice, because I was about to take the fall and didn't even know it. I was about to take the fall.
I'm glad you didn't, girl. I'm glad you didn't. So intimidated by your intelligence. Yes. I think the part that blew their minds was that you acknowledged your Black face with confidence. She said our Black pretty face.
Pretty.
Exactly. Being direct and straightforward is what gets you got. LOL. Getting your money, leave those coins. Dr. O told them, better have my money. She did. Yes, she did. I've been done dirty in corporate America. It's the same. We get set up with the okie doke. Yes. And they weaponize our stereotypes against us. So true. Abundance is my birthright. I love that. Yes. Document everything always. So true. Make sure you don't document on work stuff though. Okay.
No.
Yes. I agree. Amen. Been there. Yes, ma'am. I wish I'd known this earlier in my career. You know what?
You know now.
Exactly. You know it now. Yes. They probably got rid of your team because they wanted to erase any reminder that you're over there. Wow. Yes. We must have multiple streams of income. So important. We're going to talk about that during the virtual summit for Black women. Multiple streams of income. When I was at that toxic job, what kept me there was my fear about money, right?
Money.
How was I going to replace my income? What was I going to do? Which was such a mind F, because before I even worked at that job, I was a licensed clinical psychologist. Before you even went to your nonprofit, you had all your stuff, right? But
Right.
what am I going to do? How am I going to make money? Nuh-uh. That will not ever happen to me again. I now have multiple streams of income, and we're going to be talking about that during the virtual summit. That is so true. I know that's right. I believe the anti-HR lady was going through her own thing the same time I was on my toxic job. Yes, there needs to be more mentors for Black women in corporate spaces. True. I reached out to an attorney, and they all keep saying I have to be fired first. I'm on leave and get physically sick thinking about returning. I don't think that's true.
No, you need to, because the attorney I went to, she told me, because I went to her before, again, I had a plan. I just went to her to find out what I should do. And she's like, I'm glad that you came to me before you got fired, because it's almost too late at that point. Because you got to go fight them back in.
True.
And so I would tell all of you, put the coin. I spent $350 just for a consultation. I said, this is what I'm going through.
That's an investment. It's a good investment.
It changed my role, because that's when she brought up the protective class.
Yeah.
Which, even though I knew I was going through that, I never brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
And she just gave me a framework. Another thing I'm going to say is, too, get you a Black therapist. I'll never forget the woman said, I was saying, well, I'm trying to pay my bills. She said, can't you expac with your bills? Well, yeah.
Let me just say, I'm a little biased because I'm a Black woman therapist. I'm a little biased, but yeah, having a Black therapist is so different because we have similar lived experiences, right? And even if you might have seen during this conversation, I was calling in Dr. O several times, right? Because we want to allow ourselves to degrade ourselves, and we know the reality that many of us experience, right? So sometimes people who are not like us, they'll be like, do you think that's accurate? Like, you think that might be another reason why that is? No, you do not need somebody questioning your sense of reality.
Right.
You're going
and you don't have to go through all that, because I had a white therapist, nice lady. But when I went to the Black therapist, I didn't have to keep explaining and justifying. I was just able to say it. And she was just like, cut.
Yes.
Okay. Well, when you gonna leave?
Yes, that's a change.
At that point, I was not ready to leave, but I was like, oh, okay. Get you a Black therapist. And another thing, because she told me what, before I forget, I heard this woman, she was talking about, because all these layoffs, she said what she wished she did was have, and I had one already, so it helped, an LLC. And in Michigan, it costs $20.
Oh.
We all got expertise.
We do.
And if you can put that LLC on your resume, you never have an employee gap. Plus, you can actually sell your wares better and have a very better tax base to do it. Because really, that's been the beauty of my life. I've had this LLC since 2008. I'm not going to say it. Last year, I didn't do nothing with this business. I was rebuilding again.
Yeah, so but you have it. You have foundation.
Yeah, but I didn't have to recreate everything.
True.
And then I actually had a nonprofit I didn't do nothing with. And my former team, they're doing something with it now. Okay. So you don't get that stuff now. It's cheap. Do it while you got some cash. Yeah. It doesn't cost LLC, and you have to pay your permit every year. And then when you're ready to run your business, you have it. Yes.
It's a way for you to get multiple streams of income. And to the Black woman who said that earlier about what the attorney told her, if in your gut, I'm glad you asked that question, because probably in your gut, you're like, that doesn't sound right, right? That doesn't sound right. You heard what Dr. O said. Go consult a different attorney, please.
Find another consultant.
Please do. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Go to Emory.
Huh?
Yeah,
Emory, but Emory's busy too, right? So try to check Emory and look at other attorneys as well. Right. Okay. I filed an EEOC complaint and a complaint with the Higher Rights Commission for my state. Good. And given what's going on right now in America with them trying to dismantle all of our protections, I would just support you in getting a different attorney too. Okay, because we don't know what's about to go down. Okay,
and get it done fast. Get it done now. That was another thing. I was glad because I did it just before the inauguration.
Oh, perfect, girl! Your timing is just divine.
That was God. Yeah.
Yes, divine. Okay. I love Anne-Marie's anti-HR podcast. Yes, check out Anne-Marie. Check her out. She is hilarious, right? And I just want to tell the audience, I mentioned it briefly last week, but because of that wisdom tooth thing, I was kind of out of whack. But I'm launching my YouTube community this week. Okay. So Anne-Marie, the anti-HR lady, has agreed to be my first guest within the membership community. So keep an eye out. I think on Tuesday, I'll post the video so you can come into the community and hear the anti-HR lady. I'm lost with what to do, but know my life depends on leaving the toxicity. Yes, let me just validate. It can feel overwhelming. It can feel like you're lost. It can feel very scary. It can feel all those things, okay? My hope is hearing Dr. O's story, hearing my story, watching my videos, looking to see what resources that I have available, that you know that you're not alone, sis. You're not alone, and it helps provide you some direction. I know the feeling, okay? Yes, I've also met great friends in the workplace too. Bingo, this is currently my lived experience. For anyone looking for funding to start a business, consider joining Hello Skip. Okay, your information is in the Hello Skip, Linktree, Healer, Cassandra. So Cassandra Hill. Okay, so your information is in the chat. I have a wonderful Black woman therapist, and that's honestly how I'm making it through. Yes, my Black woman therapist is like, girl, I'm telling you, you gotta leave that job. She was like, that job's gonna kill you. You gotta go. Right. And she held me accountable. Like, I'm telling you, got to go. Right.
Yeah.
No sugarcoat, nothing. Like, you got to go.
And they talk to you like you used to be talked to, like, what? And it's like, well, what are you doing?
Yes.
I don't know why I feel.
Girl, no, I'm going to talk to you straight up. Okay. You got to go.
You got
$20. It costs $150 in Illinois. Okay.
Yeah. Investment. I'm telling you, I'll start investing in yourself. It's worth it.
Yes. Yes, yes. I have 3 LLCs. Luxury Bucket List is one of them. We need these communities. Girl, you said you need these communities. I'm telling you, I'm about to launch this community. This YouTube community is going to be called the Butterfly Community for Black Women. Okay. So check out the YouTube community that's coming out, I think, on Tuesday. Okay. And I see. Thank you so much. So, Dr. O, last words. What do you want to share with the audience before we wind down today?
I want to make sure everybody, because I know some of you are hurting, you're looking at past the situation. Yes, I still have fear. I hesitated to come on because, I do apply for teaching jobs. And I said, somebody can see this, but I'm more afraid of not telling the story. I want you to know there's another side. And we have got, I have a passion for Black women. We've got to stop it. We are the creators, the nurturers of this world. We deserve peace. Because tomorrow's a National Day of Rest for Black women.
It sure is. That's right. Yes, it is.
We deserve rest. It's our right. Yes. You do know what you're talking about. And I want you to know you know what you're talking about. I know that you're overqualified when you went to the job. And I'm telling you the story so you can know there's another side. You have options.
Yes.
And for us, they sit up in church all the time. God has not forsaken us. He's been taking care of us all this time. He's going to take care of us for another day.
Yes. And may I add that God is redirecting us.
Yes.
And we may not... If you listen, if you're obedient, right? Because we might feel like, And people tell me all the time, oh, you're so brave to leave. I'm like,
that's right.
I'm no different than you.
No.
I'm no different than you, right? But I was like, I hear you, God.
I'm more scared to not do what he says.
Yes.
I really am, because I shake sometimes. The last 3 weeks I've been shaking about when I hear or see something that they've been doing and how that would have impacted me. And I'm not impacted. And like you asked me if I rested, I haven't had time because I had a speech and engagement. I had the opportunity to help my girlfriend on her business. I've been working on my business. I've been able to take a master class to hone something. And one day I said, I'm busier now than I was when I had this job. So
Right.
everything opened up because I didn't hold, my hands weren't closed. So when I opened up my hands to let that little crap go, it just opened me up to so much more. And a lot of you are being held back from what could be because you're worrying about that little mess that's going on. And I'm going to call it little mess because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the fear stops us, right? We
Mhm.
stop, oh my God, I'm feeling scared. I need to stop. No,
Nope.
you're fearful, acknowledge you're fearful, but what do you need to do to still move forward despite the fear? Because if you don't, you're going to continue to be harmed. And I completely agree, Dr. O. Like many of us have our hands closed. Like we think that we know, right? And I did a video before about God's plan versus our plan. God's plan is always right, okay?
Right.
But sometimes you have to open your hands. And I'm telling you, when I opened my hands and said, okay, I'm out this job, so many opportunities came my way that I could have never envisioned. Never, right? Also, because of what happened to me, I now have a YouTube channel. I now talk about Black women in toxic jobs and helping them leave. I never would have been doing that if I was still at that job, right? So God was redirecting me to what is more aligned with what I need to be doing for my life and for other Black women. So we have to open our hands, right? And just get support too, right? The importance of being in community with one another, uplifting one another, sharing our stories. And I'm so thankful, Dr. O, that you chose to share your story. And for me sharing my story is the hope that we are helping to liberate other Black women who might feel stuck. Now, I saw a few other comments and then we're going to wind down for real, okay? I've been a mentor to Black women and now my former mentee has been supporting me. Excellent. Okay. Definitely took off. Great stream. Oh, she is in Rome. Okay. Thank you for tuning in. Great stream. It's 2 a.m. here in Rome, and I got to walk the dog. My husband had to go back to the USA for work. Wow. Thank you for tuning in. For everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Yes. And as I said before, thank you so much again, Dr. O, for joining us today.
Excuse me.
Keep an eye out for the YouTube community that I'm launching for Black women, the Butterfly YouTube community. That video will come out on Tuesday. So I would love to see you in that community. So everyone, please give this video a thumbs up because it lets YouTube know to suggest this video to other Black women because we try and liberate as many Black women as we can, okay? Also, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so. And subscribe to Dr. O's channel too. All her information will be in the description section on YouTube. And I will see everyone later. Okay, take care. Bye, everyone.